Just like we do every Friday at 10:30. Welcome to the channel. Today, I'm going to be talking about my new gritty vector presets for Adobe Fresco. If you haven't seen these yet, this is something I've been working on for a little while now. A lot of people always ask me about like my brush settings when I'm working in vector, and I decided that I would just make my setup available through my website, just because there's been so much interest in it, and I didn't think originally that maybe, they would be something that people would be interested, because they're not traditional like vector brushes that you can just like upload like you can in Illustrator. These are more just how I've customized the brushes and my different presets to make them do the kind of things that I want to do, which I guess if you think about it is how people do other brushes anyway, but they're just different files. So I don't know. That's a different topic altogether. But let me just take a step back, try to get organized. First off, I just want to say thank you to all of the people who have been subscribed for a while. My channel just passed 25,000 subscribers, which is pretty amazing. And I do want to give a special shout out to my channel members, especially my super supporters and above. All super supporters and above get their name illustrated and included in all the videos I make while they are subscribers. So thank you so much to all of you. Couldn't do it without you. So I am going to go into a little bit more detail about the vector brushes and what this custom preset is. If you have already gotten them through my site and you've played around with them, let me know in the comments what you think. Very curious to hear what other people's experiences are. It seems like it's gone smoothly for most of the people who've purchased them, and the people that did, I think there was a couple people who had issues installing them, got that sorted out with a little bit of troubleshooting. And it's been really cool to see people be interested in them, and it's been fun working with them. So, couple quick announcements. Next Friday during this live stream, I'm going to be joined by my good pal, Josh Lafayette. He lives in Atlanta now. I first met him a very long time ago when I was a graphic designer. He came up from Alabama to be our summer intern, and we became close friends since then. He was even the best man at my wedding. But over the years, Josh and I have collaborated a ton. We've done all kinds of fun projects together. One of my favorites was this little Rezo zine called Advertisements for Sale, and these are just ads for fake products. And we're actually working on a new version of this pretty soon, and I think we're going to be doing some of that during the live stream, sort of working collaboratively, like handing stuff off and working between like Photoshop and Fresco, and I think it's just going to be fun. Josh is one of my favorite people, and he's hilarious. We also used to do a animated talk show, short-lived, because it was a lot of work, but we started doing this when he first moved to Atlanta, and it was like a way for us to kind of talk and stuff like that. The show was called Chats with Josh, and the premise was that it was supposed to be a talk show with Josh and myself. And Chats, his child Henry called me Chats, I think. And no. I once got a piece of mail that was addressed to Chats Piascik instead of Chris. Josh thought it was funny, and he told his kid, and then all his children referred to me as Chats from then on out. So then Chats, and then the talk show chat thing. Anyway, on the show, Josh was supposed to be there, and every new episode, he wouldn't be there, and I would get a call from my producers, and they would say, "Oh, sorry, Josh can't make it today, but instead we have someone else," and then we'd have a new character every week that Josh would do the voices for. I think they're hilarious. If you're interested in watching them, you can find Chats with Josh on YouTube. I should have added it to the links, but very funny. I love it. So Josh will be here next Friday. Check out his work at joshlafayette.com. I got a Stream Deck, and I'm very excited about it. And I got it last night, and I'm just like, I set it up quickly, so I'm figuring out how to do it. Like, I got a little button for my logo, pops in. That's kind of fancy, huh? All right, let me check in with the chat, because I'm all over the place, as always. Darren, nice to see you. You are ready. Jay Quest, you said you had a little trouble finding the brushes in Fresco, but you're seeing them. Sometimes it can take a minute to update. Sometimes you have to quit Fresco and restart it. But generally, it seems like they just sort of pop up quickly. For me, they just it happened automatically. Robert Fulton, you got your coffee ready for this. I wish I still had my coffee, but I already finished it. I was up early. I got a 2-year-old, so a little hectic. Diana Lisa, nice to see you. Daryl, you are just in time. 10:30 a.m. Eastern every Friday. Jeffrey Wright, nice to see you. Socializing Craft, got lots of members in the chat today. The Capitalist, yo. You are the goat in illusion. That I appreciate that. Definitely not the goat, but I appreciate that. Lionel Rodriguez, Kathy Watson, you said you just got the brushes last night and they rule. That's so glad to hear. Niche Day, hello again from Norwalk, Connecticut. Connecticut in the house. Jenna Hess, how's it going? Okay. Yes. Let's see. You can use it for your Illustrator and Photo. Oh, my Stream Deck. Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of cool stuff I can do with it. You know, this is all very new. I impulse bought it last night because it was available at my local Best Buy. Ashley Myers, first time. Nice to see you. Socialize in chat. You said finished coffee. That is an all-day drink. I agree. So for me, I have coffee in the morning, and then I have coffee again at like 2:30. I used to have coffee again at 6, but ever since I had a child and had to go to bed at a reasonable time, I don't do that anymore. Lumpy Pixels, how's it going? So Robert Fulton, you said, are you going to possibly show us how we could make our own vector brushes? Yeah. So let me talk a little bit about vector brushes in Fresco. So as you may know, you can't currently, I don't know if this is ever going to change, but you can't import vector brushes into Fresco like you can with pixel-based brushes. For example, any Photoshop brush that you find online or that you already have, all of those work directly into Fresco. You can just easily add those in. You just go into your pixel brushes and then go add brushes at the bottom and then import them. Or, you can go and look through all of Kyle Webster's archive. Those are all available right in Fresco for free. But with the vector brushes, you are technically limited to what is there. I figured out a little bit of a way around this for this the preset that I made available. So what I discovered was you can save your customized brushes. So you can go through the different settings, customize them, and then save that into a library. And libraries can be exported and added to other people's libraries. So what this enabled me to do was to make a set for all of my gritty vector, which is what I've called the brushes that I've tweaked and adjusted to just have a more analog look to sort of match like my pixel line work that I use a lot, which is that like classic inker from Retro Supply Co. I wanted to see if I could get something close with the vector brush for those situations when I need to work in vector. And, sometimes I just want to work in vector because of that like vector trimming feature, which I'm sure I'll talk about when I start drawing with these brushes soon. And there's also, some of these brushes are like very specific like use case. Like I would just use it for like wanting to make some sort of specific style. I think the one that I use the most is like the VV Sharpie, which I just made to sort of emulate a Sharpie, and also like, the Retro Supply Co. Classic Inker pixel brush that I use all the time. I was surprised how close I was able to get it, given how sort of you don't have as much control customizing vector brushes here as you would in other situations. Vector brushes are already limited in how much you can control them because you're sort of just changing parameters because their vector is sort of calculated by math and points and curves, whereas pixel brushes are an actual graphic that you're just sort of stamping with different pressure sensitivity and stuff like that. So it's hard to get a very real analog look with vector brush just because it's, based on math and it has to be recalculating all the time. So I can show you how to tweak those settings and how you can, save your own brushes. Like if you want to adjust them, even if you had some like the ones that I use, if you liked something but wanted to change it a little bit for your settings, I can show you how to copy and save that. So I guess I'll just switch over to my iPad and we can get into that. So I got these two skull sketches here that I was going to use. I just did some like random quick sketch doodles in this file that I could use to demonstrate the vector brushes with. But before we do that, I'll go in and show you some of these settings. Let's socialize and craft. You said, did you get the small one or the larger one? I got the smaller one. I don't think it's the smallest one. It looks like it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 15 little buttons. It's the MK2, I believe. Julivian, hello from Italy. How's it going? Tress Crawford, how's it going? R. Williams, Second Coffee. Awesome. Adonis, how you doing? Zombie the Leech, Stinktober contributor. Okay, so in the vector brushes, third down, if you didn't know that, when you are in here, this is my vector brush preset here, but I'll show you what I did when I was making mine. So if you go back to all, so what I did was I just went to the basic round brush, which is like the most simple brush, and then I went save as a new brush, and then, you can name it whatever you're trying to do. I'm going to switch this to somewhere else because I'm not going to be using it. So it looks like that mine's already messed up, but whatever. So when you're in the vector brush, down here, we've got all these different settings that you can control. So right now this is set as an outline brush. So you've got here, you can change this. So this is the jitter, and this is what I used to get that sort of texture. And you can't really change the shape, but I figured out a way to give it a more analog look. Like if you look at that detail right there, you can see that it's just sort of the same. And that's inherent of vector brushes, but what I did to give mine a more natural look was to sort of play around mixing the distance, the size, in conjunction with things like where the taper starts and where these angles are, and that enabled it to shift it. So if you start playing around with angle, you'll see that this sort of changes, and when you mix these things up, you can sort of offset that texture. I found that it was like just sort of minuscule little movements can make a big difference. And like pairing that with like the velocity, the pressure, and like this, and then adjusting like this, tweaking the stylus pressure stuff, you can really sort of get some sort of, custom. You can even just see here, it's starting to get a little bit better where it's not so perfect, but it's a lot of noodling and figuring out, but that's how you would do it. And then you can just save them wherever you want. So my set, if you're not familiar with them, includes how many? vector, six presets. So we've got bleeding outer edge, dirty monoliner, gritty extra taper, nasty snake, thick and dirty outline, and VV Sharpie. VV Sharpie is like my go-to. It is the one that closely matches the classic inker pixel brush that I use. So if you look at this, it's got this sort of gritty texture to it. And if you compare that to my pixel brush, which is the classic inker, let's see, it's a little small. And it's, oh, my layer will pass. Oh, I'm on the wrong layer. That's what's going on. Okay. Oh, it's going to the pixel layer because it's, so you can see they're pretty close, but if you zoom in, you can see that you can get more of that like that grittier texture with a pixel brush bust because pixel's using a stamp. But if you want to work in vector, the Sharpie one is sort of a nice compromise in that way, and especially when you're like zoomed into normal size, they look pretty close. So I'm pretty happy with that result. So I know that's a little confusing, but I hope that's helpful in how that works. Nishide, I don't really do live events in Connecticut that often. I recently spoke on a panel for the Connecticut Art Directors Club, and I do teach a class in the illustration MFA program at the Harvard Art School, but that's just with the MFA students, and it's just a week in July. There are random events from time to time, but you know. William L., the nitty-gritty vector customs. Dave Da Vinci, you said you need to catch up on videos. I think that's a good idea. Your friend Pinksy at Adobe told me to study your video. That's awesome. Well, thank you, Pinksy. Scott, you said, did you leave one of your skulls on the rain? That may have been what happened there. It's a little drippy. Robert Fulton, I appreciate the idea to let's go for 5K hearts. I don't know if there's going to be enough people here for 5K hearts, but I like it. I appreciate it. So I've got two different skulls here, and I figured I would sort of demonstrate how I would use the different brushes to do them. And then I've got some other doodles in here that these were just funny ideas I had. I put the be ducking nice because whenever I try to use the F word, my phone connects it to, autocorrects it to ducking. And I'm never trying to say ducking, to be honest. And then this down here, silhouette and hierarchy. These are two words that I spell so poorly that my spell check is like, I have no idea what you're trying to spell. I have no suggestions. And you would think those are sort of weird words, but they come up surprisingly quite a bit. As an illustrator, if I'm talking about work, I don't know. I have to spell these more often than you would think, and I can never remember how to spell them. So I was like, what if I draw them? Then maybe it'll help me remember how to spell them. So that's that. And then this is a silly pun that I thought of while watching Ninja Turtles with my kid. This brain character is Krang, and he is usually inside of a robot. But this is a kangaroo, and my thought was Krang-aroo. So it's like if you misspelled kangaroo a little bit, or put an R in there, Krang-aroo. So these are some drawings these are rough sketches that I thought I would use to make better ones with the vector brushes. So let's go back to the skulls. I use the two skulls to show, like when I would want to use some of like the taper ones versus the, or like the monoliner one. So let's go in here and grab I'm gonna start with VV Sharpie to get like the loose outline of or like the main outline of the skull, and then I'm going to use the taper one to do some of these drips. So let's turn down the opacity a little bit more. And if you have your sketch on a raster layer and you want to just start, working in vector, you don't even have to make a new layer. It's automatically going to do that for you because vector and pixels can't exist on the same layer. So if you just start drawing, you'll see a new layer pops up. So that's a nice little thing. Jenna, you were saying attestation? Maintenance. You can't spell maintenance. Maintenance is a tricky one. I think that's one that I spelled too. What is attestation? Is that like where you get a station to get your ass tested? I don't know what you're talking about, Jenna. Is that where you get your square pizza? Okay, so I'm just coming in here and I'm drawing the areas that aren't drippy because I'm going to use the taper brush for those spots. So what I like about this brush is that it has some mild pressure sensitivity, so I can vary my line weight to get a more organic look. You can see it tapers a little bit, but it's not aggressive. Like there's not a huge amount. It's just enough to make it, nicely hand drawn. You can see like that's about as thick as it'll get on the edge of the brush. And if I kind of let off the pressure, I can make that line work get a little bit thin, but not too much, which is cool. So I'm drawing right through these spots. As you can see, if I lift a little bit at the end, I can get a nice taper. Like that. Trying to think of what areas I want to use the taper brush to get more aggressive tapering. Okay, let's just draw this nose hole. What do you call it in a skull? So I'm going to use the vector trimming to fix that stuff. So with the vector trimming, for those of you who haven't seen me do it 1,000 times, if you double tap your modifier, you'll see blue is in the center. When it's like that, you can just use your brush as an eraser. But if you tap it again, put the blue on the outer circle, you can go into vector trimming mode. And here you just draw a line through a section like that where it overlaps and just gets rid of the extra that you don't want. And it's the best thing ever. Okay, so now I'm going to switch over to the extra taper. So the extra taper here is very similar, but we've got a lot more. We can go super thin and thick. So it's like VV Sharpie with some really dramatic difference between how thin you can get and how thick you can get. So this will be cool for this sort of drip look, because we can make it a little bit more sort of dramatic. Like if we want this to start real thin like that, can come down. They can get like thicker at the bottom, so where it's like kind of getting heavier. Let me put my glove on so I stop accidentally activating. Oh, Jenna, you said attestation. Oh, so it's not ass test, it's attestation? There's an HR term. Pizza. It does sort of look like, oh, wait. You're talking about pizza because I made a pizza joke. I thought we were saying this drippy skull looks like drippy pizza. It sort of does. Daryl just became a member. Thank you so much, Daryl. Alfonso, how's it going? You said you wish there was a quicker way to toggle on a touch modifier to make a shortcut. I wonder if you could, since you can customize the touch on the pencil. For me, I feel like the touch modifier is pretty quick because I usually just do it with my other hand. And it's like already sort of there, holding the iPad thing, maybe? I don't know. So as you can see, we can mix these two together because they have a very similar texture, but we can get more like extra drippy pointiness into the detail like that. Now that I look at it, I probably should have maybe gone a little bit bigger on this one. I think I'll bring this up to 8 and see how that goes. The other thing that I think is kind of cool about this one is you can, as you go, it'll like sort of bleed more. For example, if you just like, you can see it sort of fills itself in and gets more like almost like bleeding wet ink. Okay, so just quickly wrap this up, and then I'll show you I'm going to use the mono weight brush for the other one because I want to do like a more consistent sort of maybe like a stamped look or more of just like a graphic logo symbol thing where I don't want all this variation. But what I like about this one is I can go real quick and get that sort of dramatic taper without having to like think or like concentrate on like the pressure change. So now we can just come in here and clean up these overlaps. Oops. Now if we turn off the sketch, you'll see, you know, you wouldn't really know that this is vector artwork. Like it has that sort of gritty, like marker ink transfer distress sort of look to it. So now for this one, I want to do more of like that same sort of texture, but less variation and more of like a consistent line. So I just made this monoliner, which is the same texture, but it doesn't have any pressure sensitivity at all. So this is, you know, there's not as much control in that regard, but it still has that sort of gritty look to it. So sometimes I want this like nothing changing. I just want like a very simple brush to get like a specific look where it's, you know, there's no variation. It's just like a fat marker. But it has a, you know, a distinct look to it, like a simple little graphic. So like this kind of thing is helpful if you're doing something that's going to exist very small, because it'll just hold up better. So I think we'll get a better feel for what I'm talking about when I zoom out on this and we look at it tiny. So trim off this extra stuff. Whoops. Let me come in, fill that in, and then, whoops, fill that in. Forgot to fill in the nose. See, you know, it holds up really nice at a tiny size like that. But it's like still got that sort of bleedy edge, like a stamp, but totally different looks, but still having that analog look, which is something I was really trying to achieve with these brush presets. So let's turn those off and turn on these sketches, and then I'll just sort of ink these. Actually, you know what? Let me, instead of doing that, let me demo some of the sort of unique, I guess they're all unique, but like the ones that are sort of specific use case. The capitalists. Can you get a pencil look by modifying the color, trying to emulate pencil and vector like you can do in the concept stuff? So I don't think there's enough. You don't have that kind of control because you don't have, you can't control the opacity and like fully customize the shape of the sort of path that it creates, which I think would be necessary for a pencil brush. I think this is sort of the current limitation in what you can do in terms of texture. So there's that. Alfonso, you said, what's the smoothing level at right now on that taper? So the smoothing is at 100. I tend to keep it there unless I'm trying to draw something quick. Like if I'm inking something that is not sharp lines, I'll just keep it all the way up because I like the smoothness. A lot of people don't like that, but you know, that's a personal thing, especially this early in the morning after I've had a lot of coffee, my hands are shaky. I just keep the smoothing up. Lumpy pixels, do they work like eraser with the texture? Yeah, so for example, if we get the gritty extra taper, here actually, we'll make like a full shape like this, and then we zoom in, you'll be able to see better. If I double tap to use the eraser, you can see that I'm erasing with that texture. Okay, so these this bleeding outer edge, this is a fun one for, I like it for lettering, specifically script lettering, where I can do like a long continuous line, and it sort of gives like a, almost that like 3D look, where it's like a little bit thicker on the bottom half, like when you press, so it's a little bit lighter, so it's, you know, like the 2D, 3D, the look that I do quite often. But it gives this kind of fun outline look. And what you can do is, like when you adjust the colors here, it's you can get a really cool look from this. So let's say we pick red for that one, and then like a lighter red for the inside. So it's got a fun look to it, and the more you press, the more of a thicker edge you'll get on the inside, so you can sort of control that almost 3D look, if you know what I mean. So like if I, on the upstroke, I'm pressing lightly, and then on the downstroke, you'll see we've got that thicker edge, which I think is kind of fun. William, I try to use the overhead cam sometimes. It is not set up right now, but I will be using it on videos and getting it updated again for live streams in the future. But at the moment it is not working, so I apologize about that. Let's see, this thick and dirty outline. This one is another fun one for lettering. Might be set at a huge size right now. Let's see. Yeah, it's too big. So a lot of these outline brushes work really well for script because that line work stays the same. When you like don't do a continuous line, for example, if I was just trying to do regular letters and I start over here, it starts to overlap a little bit in that way, which is fine, but it's like you can't get that continuous kind of perfect overlap like that. But I tend to just use these things for these outline brushes for lettering, or, you know, they could be cool if you were doing some sort of like monster and you wanted like some gross like tentacle things, or like, or even like you could turn the size way up and do some like sort of foliage or something. This brush size thing is a little much. Or, I mean, the colors. Or if you like turn off the smoothing, you could do some like kind of crazy lightning bolt thing, or you could adjust the. Let's switch that. But you can get some cool effects with these. Let's see what else. So those are the outline brushes. The main ones that I draw with all the time are the VV Sharpie, the gritty extra taper, and the dirty monoliner. And then the other ones are like specific use cases for lettering things, or like interesting shapes or something like that. So yeah, I'm gonna ink these and, you know, see if there's any questions, and I don't know, whatever else. Doesn't have to be specifically about this, but just figured I would draw and talk. What should I start with? Any suggestions? Scott Truxell, you said just want to say thanks for awesome videos. That's so great to hear. I appreciate that. That's awesome that you're drawing with your daughter. Rubber pulling, you said, I think your pricing is low. So I wanted to price them pretty low, especially because there's only, you know, there's only 6 brushes, but they're also, until I have way more control over what like I can do with these brushes, you know, I didn't want to, I felt like I wasn't, you know, bringing as much value as, you know, as I would like to, because, you know, there's a limitation to what I can do to customize these things. But I don't know. I've also never sold brushes before, and I guess these are technically not their brush presets, but you know, I just wanted to make them available. Not trying to get rich off of these Fresco presets, but mainly I had just gotten asked so many times about them that I wanted to. I figured I should just, you know, make them available since I kept getting asked. I have been using them a lot, and I've been working in vector more than I sort of had in the past, because I like the way they work, and I'm able to get this sort of texture. I was only sort of working in vector when I needed to do so for client projects, but now I find myself doing it just because. So I think this one might be a good candidate for the extra taper to get some of these like brain lines. Actually, let's do it in like a, I feel like I'll save time doing it in a color. So I'm going to use the Sharpie line to do like the full outline, and then I'm going to color those like individual brain line detail texture things with the extra taper brush. I should put on my background music. Robert Fullen, thank you. I appreciate your thought. I was considering just making the Sharpie one available because that's like the main one. I feel like though there's 6, they're sort of like a little bit of fluff, you know what I mean? In terms of, you know, there's specific use case brushes where there's like 3 that are like the main workhorses. I am planning on doing another, I think I might do another set because like I don't always want to be drawing this gritty style, and I use a clean brush that I've modified quite a bit. And if I can figure out some other brushes to like add into that set, I may make another set for like clean, crispy line work, if you will. You said cool character. Where do you get? So this character I cannot take credit for. This is Krang from Ninja Turtles. He's like a brain. And this is a dumb pun, Krangaroo, because he's normally in a robot, but I put him in a kangaroo. Okay, so I am actually a quick pro tip here that I've been asked about quite a bit when someone's trying to use the vector trimming and it doesn't work. If you go in and use the paint bucket, this shape will no longer work with vector trimming because it becomes a solid object because of how Fresco like simplifies things. So we can use vector trimming on the other areas, but like this mouth, all this connected shape is now one thing because we use the paint bucket. So don't use the paint bucket until you know you're done with a specific area. So I'm gonna color this brain in so that I can do this, the detail line work in another color. So I'm gonna set this as a reference layer, then make a new layer below, and then I'm gonna get this, I'm gonna get a pink color. Like that. And I'm gonna choose vector because we're working in vector. So now that's on its own layer, and now I can release that. I'm gonna put the sketch on top of my color layer so I can see those lines. And now I'm going to just choose like a darker color to do those details. So I'm gonna grab the extra taper for this. Turn my sketch down a little bit more. I don't like that color. Gritty extra taper. Okay. I think I just want it to be a little bit darker. Okay, that's good. So now you can see that I'm able to get that sort of really tapered look to get these kind of like gross texture lines from the brain. I feel like it speeds up the workflow. We can make these sort of brain line shape things. Can add some like drippy things. I just feel like he's moist all the time. So I like to add some drip lines. I think I'm gonna go down onto the color layer, and I'm gonna make a new layer above that, and then I'm gonna set that as a clipping mask to that color. And with this on, I can kind of come in here and do some like tone shadow areas like this and have it be locked in to that color so it doesn't go beyond, so I can work a little bit faster. I'm gonna switch back to the Sharpie and just use like a bigger size, because not that big. I was having a hard time getting those like close corners because of that taper was so strong. But because it's a clipping mask, I can work quickly because I can go right over the edge and not worry about it sort of expanding past my line work. Gonna add some emphasis to the eyes and make them a little bit more menacing by maybe filling that in. I like to make some like a little bit of shadow behind those like big inset areas like that, because I feel like it gives it a little bit more sort of depth. Okay, cool. So turn our sketch back on. Normally I wouldn't be coloring a section before I finish doing all the line work, but I just wanted to sort of demonstrate those brushes. So I'm going to switch back to black, and then we're still using VV Sharpie. VV refers to, well, V is like vector Sharpie, but then VV is just like funny, being, you know, like, I don't know. You know what I'm saying, right? Like VV nice, VV good, I don't know. This is like, it's so hard for me to not just draw right through shapes, because it just makes it so much nicer. You get such nicer lines when you don't have to like try to stop at the edge. You know, because when you're, what does this hand look like? When you're trying to like end a line that has texture and grit, like right at the stop, it like, you know, sort of ruins things, you know, like gets a little weird, especially when you're trying to do like a smooth arc. Like if I'm trying to make this shape, you see it gets a little lumpy, but if I can get like a running start like that, it's just so much easier and nicer. So then I just, you know, go in with the vector trimming afterwards and just get rid of all the extra stuff. Except here where I messed that line up because I colored on top of it, but that's fine. We can use the paint bucket to fix that little spot. There we go. One other question I've had a lot is people have issues with the edges when they're filling with the vector brushes, and that's never been a thing for me. Like if you look, there's no separation, and some people have been having an issue. And I do find that sometimes it previews weird, but like when you zoom in, it doesn't look like that. So I don't know. I don't know how to fix that for people. It seems like it's a preview thing, but I don't know any other way why that would be happening. I think we need like a palm zone. Is that the word? That looks better. The thumb, yeah, thumb would be on the inside. When I'm drawing hands and stuff like that, I'm constantly like moving my hands into different positions to like figure out where the thumb should be. Yes, Daryl, these are used regularly in my workflow, and that's why they have silly names. Also, because I can't help myself but name things silly. If I'm being honest, a lot of them weren't named before I made the set. And naming the brushes may have been one of the hardest parts of the whole process. Nasty snake used to be gross jellyfish tentacle. Like this tail line is a perfect example of a line that would be so much easier, to draw using vector trimming, because I can draw right through the end. Because otherwise that kind of curve and then stopping there can be tricky. Noticing that this area is a little messy there. Very vector. Yeah, lumpy, that's a good one. Darren, you said when sketching our initial characters, do you ever use reference, or do you have an amazing memory bank of imagery? I definitely went to Google Image to find images of Krang, because I couldn't remember exactly what he looked like, and in the version of Ninja Turtles that I was watching with my kid, he's a little bit different than the Krang from my childhood, and that was the one I wanted to draw. So I did a quick, I went and Google imaged Krang to sort of get a reference there, just to sort of see what he looks like, but it's not so much like an amazing like I don't feel like I'm drawing from memory. I don't know how to explain it. So like I'm not someone who's great at drawing from like reference, like copying something or like drawing from life is definitely not one of my strong suits. I think it's because I've never really enjoyed doing it. For me, I like to draw things that like aren't there or just like from my imagination. I feel like that's what I do more so. Because I like to change the way things look. For me, I've always felt like drawing something that I'm looking at always like felt pointless, and I don't want to devalue that for other people, but for me it was like, well, I can already see it, so why do I want to draw it? You know what I mean? Like I wanted to, draw new stuff or like, what I was imagining, not what was in front of me. So because of that, I didn't really practice it enough. Like I had to do it in art school quite a bit. So like there was a point where I was better at it and, I can do it a little bit, but I just, I didn't keep up with it because I don't enjoy it. And for me, especially, someone with ADHD, it's very hard for me to get motivated to do something that I don't feel like doing. All right. So that's all we had from the sketch. So we got to figure out the rest on our own. Got some, I don't know why I made a new layer. Whereas Krang is looking forward. That eye's a little bit weird. All right, I guess we can finish coloring it in. So I'm gonna move this sketch layer back down to the bottom. Let's turn on our, turn it back to a reference layer, go to our color layer. And what color are kangaroos? I think they're brown, but I guess it doesn't have to be brown. It can be whatever color it is. My kangaroo is blue. I don't know about you, but that's what color my kangaroos are. I've never seen a kangaroo in real life, so I don't know if they're even real. And this sort of goes into what I was just saying. Like, I'm drawing a blue kangaroo because that's what I've never seen a blue kangaroo. Also, it looks good with the pink. What is that on our, where is that? Oh. Okay. Let's see. I don't like that red. Maybe I should have a red nose. Okay. So sometimes when I am going to do, if I want to add some like shading, instead of just choosing a color, I'll just go over everything with like a light purple, because I think it works well with this style, and it just having like, because I use like flat shapes for tone, I'm not like rendering detail. Also, I can't concentrate because this line is so bad here. I need to fix that first. Let's see. It's just that right there, that like tangent. It's gross. Okay. Okay, that's better. So as I was saying, I'll make a new layer and I'll set that to multiply. And then I'll just grab like a light purple. And then just sort of come in and draw over it to make my like shadowy colors. I'll often bring like the opacity down even more. Oops, I gotta turn off my reference. That's weird. Okay, anyway, I'll come in and like adjust the opacity to where I like it to be a little bit subtle. But the good thing about purple is I can also use it like here on the nose, because it'll work on any color. Or like if I want some shadow on these teeth, I could do that. Or like the eyes. You can just draw over everything with one color. And, you know, this isn't always ideal for realism, but for me, and I just want like a simple, for like my illustration style, like simple graphic, it's perfect and saves a lot of time. Gravel King, you said Billy Madison's Blue Duck. I can't remember that reference. It's been a long time since I've seen that movie. But I feel like this, just that little bit of shadow just really adds quite a bit to it. And I try to not go overboard, but you know, it happens. So I am currently, someone recently asked about if I was still using the AstroPad removable screen protector. And I used it for quite a bit, and I thought it was great. But my eraser is using a multicolor brush, and it's I think my round brush is messed up. We need to turn off that. Okay, there we go. Anyway, so it was great. I thought it was the best removable one that I've used so far. But I think it was starting to get a little worn out. And because it was removable, it had gotten kind of like, I don't know, I had like dust under it and it was just hard to get off. And I don't like to remove my screen protectors anyway, because I just use my iPad for drawing 99% of the time. So I decided to just get a regular one that is not one that's meant to be taken on and off. And I actually decided to do a test where I got the least expensive matte screen protector on Amazon to do just to test a theory that I had, which was that like any of the matte screen protectors are great. And the reason I have this theory is because I started drawing on iPad. There wasn't like paper-like or any of these like paper specific things. I just decided to try a matte screen protector because I actually had been using one on my iPad, on my iPhone, because I don't like the feel of the glass, like swiping. So I noticed that the matte ones felt like paper, and I was like, well, I wonder how that would feel on the iPad for drawing, because I didn't like drawing on the glass. So I got one of those, and it turned out that it felt so much better and felt like paper. And that's obviously why this whole industry of like paper-like and paper feel and all these different things you know, came from, because they naturally give it a paper-like feel. But I feel like they're all very, very similar. So I bought the cheapest one. It was, I think it was $7.99, and it came with 2. And I've had it on for the past week. I'm planning on doing a video. I filmed like the install and like the unboxing and talking about it and my initial results. But man, it's great. It's fine. I did notice that it does wear down the pencil tips a little bit more so than the actual Paper-like one I was using, but it's because the texture on the new Paper-like is so minimal. So for me, I'd rather just replace my tips more often and get a better feel. And also, like, so this screen protector was $8 for 2. And I can get like a 6-pack of, you know, Timovo, Amazon, Apple Pencil tips for $9.99. And a Paper-like screen protector is like $40. So you could spend $9 on 6 extra Apple Pencil nibs and have 2 screen protectors for less than half of the price of the Paper-like one and get an arguably better feel. So those are my thoughts on that. But if you want a removable one, the AstroPad rock paper pencil one is great. Gravel, you said Billy Madison drew a blue duck in kindergarten and said, "I've never seen a blue duck, so I made him a blue." That's awesome. Yeah, that is a very good reference to what I was doing. So that's Krangaroo. Feel pretty good about it. I'm gonna draw something else. Goober, hi. Jan Birch got through buying brushes now. Oh, cool, thanks. Lumpy pixels. I could do an animation of laser beams out of the eyes. It's true. I was gonna draw something else, but I would just for demonstration purposes, I would like to show how fast and easy I could make lasers coming out of these eyes because of the motion features in Fresco. Like, this is something that I feel like people do not understand when they like don't know how good the animation features are in Fresco. So like, got a new layer here. I'm just gonna draw this simple line like that. Click on this animation thing, path, come over here, and I'm going to go like that. And then I'm gonna draw one from the other eye. Actually, I'm gonna make that one a little bit more of an angle like that. Okay, and now what I'm gonna do is add multiples. Could scatter those a little bit. We could add frames. We can go shrink, ease out. Let's add even more. And it's like, just with one tiny little line, it's just like, you know, obviously it's not great, but like that fast is how you could do things. So imagine if you spent 15 seconds instead of 7 seconds and made a cooler line. Very cool. You could also do, what else could you do? You could use a let's see. Let's grab something with some like texture. Let's see this. And let's what could we do here? We could like do it so it looks like it's like a the grow and shrink is weird. We could let's undo that. Let's maybe if we, because it has this texture to it, we could like make a longer grittier line like this, and then do a path with that. I think that's going to be the key. And then add multiples. And we can maybe have it grow a little bit. And now what we can do is adjust the path until it's not like so far back. There we go. And we could duplicate that and then choose layer, content, and motion paths. And then we can move this one down here, rotate it a little bit like that. Oops. Let's see. Transform path. Yeah, pretty cool with just a single little line. But we're not talking about that today. We're talking about vector brushes. Let me turn my sketch back on. So I guess I will, maybe because this is script, I will use the, I could show you how the gritty extra taper could work on silhouettes. I think I'm gonna, let's see. I'm trying to think if I want to do this. What's the brush size? Okay, let's make it a little bit bigger. I'm gonna do that little flourish after the fact, I think. Well, no, we can just do the dot separately. So I can push thicker as I'm going down and then lift up to get it to taper out quite a bit. And as you can see, it's got a nice kind of loose organic feel. This wouldn't be ideal to do the dot over the eye, so we can do that after the fact, just because the taper is so much. So I think for the dot on the eye, I would just come back in with the Sharpie. And because I want the top of this eye to be more flat, it's also a good example of how these work really well together because I made them match. You can like go in and switch to the other brush to do something like this where you want to have control to get that like round shape for the eye, and it won't look different. And then here it's like, oh, I pressed too hard here because I want this to be thin on the way up. I can just go in with this brush where I have a little bit more control and erase some of that, and the texture is gonna match pretty well. like you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. So you can really go in and fine tune those sort of things because they work so well together. So if we go back to our extra taper, you can see they sort of like bleed into each other, like the lines as you're coming back, which I think is cool because it does give it that like analog look. And then you have, it's so easy to get these like really dramatic flourishes with the like really sharp points at the end. And then like for the bottom of the H, you know, you can switch back over to the VV Sharpie and just sort of fine tune that a little bit. And then, you know, we can erase a little bit and just get it just the way we want to. Maybe we want to thin that out a little bit. Maybe this got a little too thick there. Like maybe that connection can be a little bit stronger. But you can do as much or as little as you want to just sort of get that hand-drawn feel. Alfonso, you said you're having an issue syncing the brushes. So some people have had that issue too. So because they're not brush files, they're libraries, when you click on the link that you get when you get the brushes, if you're not logged into to Creative Cloud, it asks you to, and then it just adds them to your library. So if they don't immediately show up in your vector brushes, like here, there's two things that I would do. One, I would make sure that when you are in like the main thing of Fresco, if you click up here, you want to just make sure that you are logged into your account that you purchased these with. And if that is the case, those are still there, then I would just restart Fresco. Those two things seem to have solved the issue with the, there's been maybe 3 people who have had issues so far. So hopefully that helps. If you are, if anyone else is having issues or you're still having issues, definitely feel free to reach out to me. My email address is in the PDF, or it's on my website. Steph Candidates, love the new vector brush options. Thank you so much. Okay, so maybe we'll try the bleeding outer edge for hierarchy. Maybe we'll use the pink from Brain for the inside. I don't know if this is going to be the best choice because the word is so long. So this will allow me to show my like workaround for if you don't want the that disconnect that happens when you start a new line. So what I do is I just I'll just do it at the end. So there's 2 ways to get around it. Like you can either just make it all one shape. So if like I do this E, go down to the bottom, I could just like retrace my steps to do that middle part of the R. But if you don't want to do that, you can just go in afterwards and use the VV Sharpie to erase it. I'm already like running out of space on this because this is such a thick thing and this line is so thin. So I'm going to put this on a new layer so I have a little bit more control, and I'm going to make the brush a little bit smaller. if you like plan how you draw the letters, the overlap can be kind of cool. Like for example, if I do all the crossbars of the E and then I bring this down, has kind of a cool look if that's something that you wanted, but you know, it might not be the case. So I'll show you how I change that afterwards if I don't want that. And I mean, it's not a fancy fix. It's pretty straightforward, but it is somewhat of a solution. I still don't think I'm going to be able to remember how to spell these words. If you're new to this stream right now, these are just random doodles I did to demonstrate these brushes, but I put these two words together because they are words that I cannot spell ever, and to such a degree that my autocorrect has no idea what I'm trying. Like I have no idea what you're trying to spell. This is nonsense. So here again, I go back to VV Sharpie and I'm just going to grab the pink color. And because the texture matches for these brushes, I can come in here and just draw in that overlap. And, you know, maybe I want to keep that there. I haven't decided yet. If I'm going to do it somewhere else, maybe I will. But we can just get rid of those overlaps quickly if you don't want them there. It's not the a perfect solution, but it works well and the textures match up, so it's not really a problem, I don't think. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll leave some of those. And then what I like to do is I switch back to the black, and then I just come in here and like close the ends because of the nature of how these outline brushes work and the way that I had to manipulate the angle to get the texture to not be so perfect. It doesn't close perfectly at the end on the finish. So I just come in and close those ends. Not that you have to, but yeah, I think it has a cool look to it. Let's draw this be ducking nice. Elcat, you said if you pay for Fresco Premium, all wonderful brushes of Kyle Webster are available. Yes, that is a great tip, and I think it's one of the things that there's a lot of things that make Fresco amazing, but when you are in the pixel brushes and you just go to add brushes and go to discover new brushes, like all of Kyle Webster's brushes are here. And like, you know, back when I used to just work in Photoshop pre iPad days and even forever, like I did all of my work using Kyle's brushes, like before he was at Adobe. He's, I would say, the best brush maker in the industry, and which is why Adobe hired him, because he was so good. But like, for example, just this mega pack is like all you would ever need, and it's free. Like the mega pack is something I actually purchased years and years ago when I was working in Photoshop. So that's really great. The other thing to mention about brushes too is that Fresco uses Photoshop brushes, and there's just an incredible amount of Photoshop brushes that exist online, because, you know, Photoshop is sort of like a industry standard for things like concept design, and all those people love their custom brushes. So just endless brushes available, and they're all work seamlessly in Fresco. All right, so this ducking lettering with all these like overlaps is a good example of a place where I would like to use the monoline one because I don't want a ton of variation. Like I want it to be a simple outline, but I will also want it to have that sort of gritty look to match the rest of it. So for that, I'm going to use the monoliner, the dirty monoliner, and then just figure out the line weight I want. And this will allow me to get a nice clean look here that isn't too complicated, like with all these overlapping shapes. So to make it as clean as possible, I'm going to utilize the vector trimming here and just sort of draw all of my letters in like this, overlapping. But as you can see, the line weight is not changing at all because I turned off all of that stuff for this one so that I could maintain the texture, but like simplify it so that there's no, I can just get an easy, consistent line without like it tapering or anything like that, because sometimes I don't want it. Like when I'm doing something like this, where I want it to just have a consistent line through the whole thing. So I'll come in here and trim some of this stuff off so it doesn't get too wild. So you can do one at a time or draw through like a whole bunch of them, whatever is faster or easier for you. I sort of switch it up depending on the situation. And as you can see, we've got that texture, but it's all very nice and clean and consistent to help with the look I'm trying to go for here. Jan Birch, you said, will using vector brushes decrease my maximum number of layers? Will using animation cells decrease maximum layers? So Fresco does not limit you on layers. It'll let you use layers until your iPad will catch on fire. I haven't found any issues with it, slowing down or getting bogged. But no, if you have an older iPad or like, I don't know, even iPads have been like very powerful for so long now that they tend to not have issues. Like for example, I also have a iPad mini that I use like a sketchbook, and even that thing, which is like a glorified iPhone, tends to not have any issues with even my most like complicated animated Fresco files. So that shouldn't be a concern. For example, I'm still using a fairly old iPad Pro because I just haven't had a reason to upgrade, because it has no issues. Like there's no lag anywhere. I think what I was getting at is that because this is vector and there's some texture to it and it's constantly recalculating, if you were doing a lot of super detailed work with these brushes in like a huge file, you could run into some, I don't know, like maybe it hesitates every now and then. I haven't had it happen, but it could. But it wouldn't be that often, and it would have to be an extreme situation. Powerful. You said for silhouette, is there a way to add a thick line on the inside with super sharp taper you have on the lines? Let me look. Silhouette. Is there a way to add a thick line on the inside with this super sharp taper? On the inside? Like inset inside the letters? Can you clarify what you're asking? Because I am not sure, but I would love to help. Okay, so I'm gonna do this like 3D thing here. So when I'm doing this, I'm just sort of like shifting it over. Like I'm the same sort of lines and just moving them over to the right and down. Okay, Robert Paul, like the pink, but thin. Oh, so really thin inside. I think there's another, so you could use the thick, thin, dirty outline to do that. Is that what you're talking about? Very thin center line. Yeah, so that's you could do that with the thick and dirty outline. Okay, so I'm just gonna get rid of some of this other stuff. And then we'll just need to do it up here. Okay, so now that I know I don't need to do any more vector trimming, I can go ahead and fill this in. Because remember, if you still need to do trimming after you use the paint bucket, it won't work anymore. And you'll notice up here, so because I did the trimming, it cuts it nice and sharp, but because we're using the mono weight and it's sort of round, I wasn't able to sort of clean that up. So in this situation, I would switch back to the Sharpie and like switch it to an eraser. And then I can just kind of come in and fix that so it's a little bit more consistent so I don't have those like little chunks. Okay, cool. So let's draw the duck first. So I think I'll use the Sharpie so that I have some pressure sensitivity so I can like taper the line a little bit, like for the mouth details here. Like that. Maybe we can use the extra taper thing for these feather things. Maybe the eyebrow. So I use extra taper here, and then oops. Okay, and switch back to my Sharpie. Thanks, Robert Fulton. I hope you enjoy them. Give them some teeth. I like to put a little extra shadow or like open area when I do teeth for some reason. I feel like it gives it a little bit of extra character or something, or emphasizes like the smile or grin, whatever it is. Not really a smile. Okay, so let's draw this bee. Okay, so I think for this center, like the little counter for the B, I don't know what I'm saying. There we go. So I did the duck first so that I could make sure that, like, as you can see, I raised this up a little bit because I didn't want it to sort of, I don't know, I felt like it would get too complicated if it joined like right where that all buttered up together. Okay, and let's maybe we can use the bleeding outer edge for nice. The dot can be tricky. I guess if I just treat it like a regular line. I think the nice lettering is a little too big. So what I'm going to do is turn down the opacity and then just redraw the ice. Okay, so come back here and let's just actually let's use the vector trimming and just cross it out. And then we can turn it back on. And I think I just gonna adjust it a wee bit. I'm actually gonna come in here, grab the Sharpie and use it as an eraser and just trim this K a little bit to give a little bit of extra breathing room there. And can merge that down. And now we can just color this in quickly. We'll just yellow beak, maybe the nice, oops, can be like that. I think I want to clean up the ends a little bit here. Maybe I'll use this blue to tie it all together. Maybe the red. So those are my vector presets. Daryl, how long can you sit at your desk at a time without getting tired? Well, I tend to do it all day. I do get tired. That's why coffee at like 2:30 usually. So yeah, it depends. It's a lot easier for me to stay at my desk if I'm into what I'm doing, if I'm having fun, or if I'm like consumed by a project. Then I can just lose hours and hours and hours. Use the Pomodoro technique to take short breaks every hour. Yeah, that would be good for me. I do have, to help with the ADHD, I have different clocks that I always forget to use, but I really try, if I'm like trying really hard and I have like, I'll try to like work on things. Like for me, I need sort of like an hour. Like I'll give myself an hour to work on something because it can go by really fast when I get in the zone. But I'm just bad about remembering to use them. I should probably put them in front of me so I see them, but I just have a lot of time blindness. You said, is it on purpose that the E looks like wings? It was not on purpose, but I think that's, yes, it was on purpose. Did you have good penmanship in school? I think I've always had pretty good penmanship because I've always, whenever I'm writing, I sort of feel like it's drawing, but I do write quick, sloppy sometimes. I went to a Catholic school as a kid, and we had to write in cursive. Everything had to write in cursive, and like it had to be neat, or the crazy ass nuns would yell at you and make you redo it. So there was that. You'd think that maybe I would have some trauma behind that, but I still love drawing script, so who knows. Diane Ingalls, happy Friday to you as well. Cool. Yes, the irony for forgetting to use time saver. It's ridiculous. This one, I love this because how it works is you just like put it on the time you want. But the thing that drives me crazy, and the reason why it's behind me, is because it flashes. Like, do you see that? Do you know how obnoxious and stressful that is? Like, why does it have to do that? Like, I guess to know that it's working, but it also has like a timer. Like you can see the number, like how much time is left on the back. But otherwise this would be amazing. I think if I can like take it apart and remove the blinking light, this would be my favorite thing ever. This one is great because it has like a visual thing, and it like, you know, as the time goes by, the red circle goes away. But like I don't realize, like I guess I forget to look at it because I'll look at it and there will be no circle. And I'll be like, I wonder how long the circle's been gone, because I had no idea. Cool. Chuck Scott, you said, loving the brushes, you're struggling to get the Sharpie to be as thin at the end as the beginning of the stroke. Any suggestions? Let me see. So I'm in the VV Sharpie. So at the beginning, struggling to get it to be as thin at the end. Well, you could tweak that and do one that doesn't involve pressure. You could also adjust the pressure dynamics to be let me think. You could adjust your stylus pressure to make it lighter, so that you don't have to press as hard to get the distance. You could also put a manual taper on it here. If you move this thing, you'll see the end gets to a fine point. The other thing you could do that might be even easier is to just start with the gritty extra taper. So if you like tap on that, you could go to, so if you're in that brush and then you go down to your brush settings, you can tap here next to your name and you can go to save as a new brush. And then, you could name it, whatever you want. And then save that, but you can adjust the settings here. So what you could do is, to make it more like the Sharpie, all you would do is turn down your pressure dynamics to maybe like 50%. And this one has like the super sharp points at the ends. So if that's something that you wanted, but you just didn't want the dramatic change that it normally has, that's how you could do it. Hopefully that's helpful. Jen, you said you use duct tape to eliminate flashings. So if I could just tape over it, that'd be fine. The problem is it's sort of translucent, so the entire cube flashes. Faresh, so glad that you are inspired. R. Williams, you said, can we import the vector brushes on the free version of Fresco? So I think you can. I'm not 100% sure. I need to figure that out. But because even the free version of Fresco requires you to sign up for a free version of Creative Cloud, you can save things into your library. And because these aren't technically brushes, these are presets, you shouldn't have a problem using them in the free version, but I'm not 100% sure. If, for example, you have the free version, you buy the brushes and discover that they will not work in your free version, you can always email me and I would obviously refund you, no questions asked. That too, if you got the brushes and you don't like them, shoot me an email and I will refund you. I'm not gonna keep your money if it's not something that you're gonna use, so that's why my email address is on there. Cool. So that's it. I will see you next Friday for a live stream. New videos every Tuesday. And thank you all so much. And have a good weekend. Bye.